Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the Campus Dialogues, a Muslim Views production in affiliation with MuslimFin. MuslimFin, your roadmap to Islamic banking and finance. I'm your host, Ali Salie, and here to introduce our guest this evening is my friend and colleague, Siraj Buzik. Siraj?
Ali, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, always good to be in the studio.
Absolutely.
And like I say, another week, another podcast. And tonight we've got a very special guest with us. So as you know, the Campus Dialogue, the podcast where we uncover practical wisdom for purpose-driven growth. And like Ali said, I'm Shariah Buzik. And today we're tackling a challenge every entrepreneur faces: how to scale your business without running out of cash. So in an economy as tough as South Africa, this isn't a strategy, it's survival. And our guest tonight is none other than Uwais Asmal. He's a chartered accountant and cash flow strategist who helps businesses from startups to property firms grow sustainably while keeping finances lean. What sets Uwais apart is that he's focused on bridging financial efficiency with social impact, proving that profit and purpose don't have to compete. And in this episode, we'll dig into proven tactics to boost cash flow and slash unnecessary tax burdens, how to balance ambitious growth with financial discipline, and real-world lessons from Uwais' work across industries, because theory is great, but results matter more. So whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, this conversation will give you actionable tools to scale smarter and not harder. Uwais, shukran for joining us. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Shukran for having me.
Uwais, we're quite excited to have you in studio. We chatted for a bit, before you actually went abroad and with some conference. But before we get stuck in, who is Uwais Asmal?
That's a long question, but I'll try and shorten it. So I'm Uwais. Grew up in Salterville, Woodstock. Actually went to school down the road here at Livingston.
Okay. Yeah. Good school.
Yeah, as far as I know. But yeah, no, it did me well. I was one of the first people from there to go to Stellenbosch.
Nice.
After school, I got a bursary, so I was lucky. I had good results. I got a bursary. Went to stay there for 3 years. So that was an experience. That was like 2004, 2005. So one of the first crop. So you learn a lot. You like the first few, but that was quite interesting. Studying in Afrikaans is no joke. I'll tell you that. I survived 3 years, and then when I started, I did my honors at UNISA, and I was like, I'm learning in English. I'm amazing. I can actually know what's going on.
Has your Afrikaans improved?
It did, but since then it's just declined. So like you realize you don't know Afrikaans until you actually go there and you speak to people. Like, okay, Cape Town doesn't teach you Afrikaans at all. Not really. But so I spent a lot of time there. Did my articles in Cape Town and KPMG. As all chartered accountants, but I was kind of just figuring my way around. So some people are very like, this is what I want to be when I grow up, and I was like, okay, what do I want to do next year? Let's figure it out.
Yeah.
And the thing about chartered accounting is that it's a very defined pathway. From the time you start studying until you finish articles, it's like 7. If you pass everything in 7 years, it was a little bit longer, but you know what you're going to do for the next 7 years.
Yeah.
And then you get afterwards, and then it's like, I've just been told what to do for the last 7 years, and now I have no guidance whatsoever. So that's so from there I was kind of just figuring life out, trying different jobs. I've been in jobs for 5 years. I've been in jobs for 9 months.
Okay.
So I've kind of tried different things. I'm not scared to test things, try things out, and if they work, great, and if they don't, we'll try something else. I've learned a lot. I've learned about I used to be a typical accountant, everything it's black and white, but when you get into sales and when you get into business, you realize you can't just be black and white, and especially when you're dealing with small business owners, as you're dealing with people's livelihoods, and it's not just about I'm right and you're wrong, or you're right and I'm wrong. There's a lot of grey, and if you learn to operate in the grey, there's a lot that you can get from being in the grey. I'm a father, husband, 4 kids. It's a lot to handle, but my wife does most of the heavy lifting. So I'm quite lucky there. But yeah, that's me. I guess me in a nutshell.
Alhamdulillah. Always a happy wife, happy life, eh? And 4 kids, I'm sure you have your hands full with all the other things that you're doing. Coming back to the smaller business owners, talking about that, and our our podcast focuses on finance, specifically Islamic finance, and always, communicating with the smaller business owners. What are some of the challenges that you notice that small business owners face, and what tips do you provide them to overcome those?
Maybe before I talk about challenges, I actually want to talk about what opportunities are. So,
Okay.
So if you work in a big company or there's big companies, they tend to go with like the economy is doing well, we do well. The economy is not doing well, we tend to not do well. But small businesses actually they're not as affected by the economy. If you found a market and a niche, you can do well even though the economy is not doing well. And that's something that was a surprise to me when I started working. So I've been working with small businesses for now 10 years.
Okay.
I was started with large businesses before, worked in corporate, and then I got to small business and I'm like, but the economy is doing so badly, but this company is like shooting the lights out because they found a niche that works for them. So you don't have to be, there's no growth in the economy. What are we going to do? You still have lots of opportunities. If you find things, you can do something more efficiently. You can take business away from a bigger business who's not doing things efficiently, or you can create a market that wasn't there before. And that's amazing because small businesses actually have there's always pros and cons, but the nice thing about small businesses is you're not stuck in a certain way. You can try something, you can fix it, you can break it, try something new, move on. And you can always just keep iterating because you have the control. And I think that's a opportunity that big businesses don't have.
And I love that because you're actually looking at the positive side of things. And you're right, if you have that niche, then really, you can, carve out your own space within the economy. And whether the, markets are up or down, depending on the industry, I mean, you can still thrive, because you have your client base. And you focus on that, and the businesses end up doing well. So talking about opportunities, what are some of the opportunities that are out there? If you were to now, let's say we were to talk to the youth that have gone through university now, and they are in the position that you were in, and they're saying, okay, look, I've studied for 4 years, I'm looking for opportunities. What's out there in the market? What types of things should I be looking for, and what do I need to have in place?
I can talk from an accountant specifically, and then graduates maybe in general. So accountants are privileged type, and I say that because, and I've done it myself, so I know. The nice thing about accountants is every business needs one.
Yeah.
So you're never out of a job. You might not be in a job you like, but you'll find a job.
Okay.
Worst case scenario, you need to move to Joburg. That's like worst case scenario. But you'll find a job. It's not, and it's different for people. Like economists get paid really well, but there's like 20 companies that are large enough that they have economists, and if that person's not leaving tough luck, you don't have a job. Whereas accountants, you can start your own business, but every company needs an accountant. So yes, you might not like the work you're doing, but you never go. If you're a chartered accountant. Maybe you don't get paid the best, but you will get paid. You're not sitting on the street. And as an accountant, I think it's a benefit you don't always realize. Like I've been in positions where I've been in very difficult positions and I've had enough. I don't even have a job yet, but I'd rather sit at home. I'll resign. I have my reasons for my mental health, and I'll figure it out. And obviously, you make a lot to do, and you hope for the best, and you ask Allah to help you because everything comes from above. But it's a bit of a privilege position. Mind you, you study hard, but there's lots of things you have to study hard to get to.
That's very interesting. I've had the opportunity to watch some of your podcasts and the advice you give from a financial aspect. And I don't want to misquote you, but I think on one of the podcasts, it's either yourself or someone said that profit is an opinion, but cash is fact. And so how do you, as an accountant, shift or assist businesses shift their mindset from chasing revenue to mastering cash flow?
So it's both. So you have to do both.
Okay.
The problem with chasing revenue only is people don't realize that, especially when you're dealing with big companies, they only pay you after 30 days or 30 days from statement, which is actually 60 days.
Yeah.
So now you spend the money, you've recorded the revenue, you've invoiced it, but you have no money in your bank account. You have to wait 60 days. And you don't always, and nobody knows it from the beginning. And also when you're small, you kind of just sign the contract because you want the business. You know what I mean? So you're not doing anything wrong. It just comes with learning. And sometimes as you grow, it's like, oh, you have to deal with other issues like VAT. And it sounds simple, but a lot of businesses don't realize it. And once they start charging VAT, the money doesn't belong to them. But they spend it like it belongs to them. So now they've spent it, and I was like, oh, you actually owe SARS this money. Your revenue is doing well, but there's no money in your account because you have to pay SARS, VAT, you have to pay income tax, you have to pay, because they're not managing their businesses. And again, you're not expecting business owners to be amazing accountants. That's not what you do. Business owners are amazing at the business that they're running. That's what they're passionate about. So that's what they should focus on. Understand accounting a little bit, but have someone there, whether it's an accountant full-time or a part, like obviously small businesses, you can't have a full-time accountant. Somebody who for a small amount of time every month who can give you the guidance, because the worst thing you can do is wasting your time trying to reconcile transactions or things that you hate or you don't enjoy, because that's taking time away from the things that you enjoy, making the money, signing the deals.
Do you feel that this is one of the challenges that new startups or new business owners deal with? Because like you said, they might be good at the product or the service they provide, but then when setting up their business, I think there could be a challenge around the accounting and the reconciling or the finances. Is that one of the challenges you see in the communities?
Well, what I also understand, and entrepreneurs are also, and I completely understand it. They are proud because, I mean, you built a business.
Correct.
Nobody wants to look like they don't know what they're doing. So what some people do is because I don't understand it, I'm going to avoid it. Or if somebody talks to you, they like pretend like they know what they're talking about, but sometimes they don't. So you have to learn a little bit just to be dangerous enough to understand, so that you can read a financial report. You don't need to know all the details of how, but understand the revenue, understand the cost of sales, understand what the profit means, understand what a balance sheet represents and what is a good one and what's a bad one, or understand the change from last year to this year. And that doesn't mean you have to do the work. You can get someone to explain it to you and say, okay, the revenue was lower this year or lower this month. Actually, we expected it to be less. So it was actually a good month, even though it was lower than last. But you must there's knowledge behind the numbers. And I like to, people don't always go with me, but I enjoy it. For me, it's the sexy side of accounting that I enjoy. It sounds, because some people do the bookkeeping, and yes, you have to do the numbers, but explaining it to an entrepreneur and getting the person to understand, or helping them to save cash on tax, for example, that can mean they can go on holiday in December, or they can appoint another person. It has massive impacts. And accountants are sometimes, I'm going a little bit off on a tangent, but accountants sometimes, they talk accounting language. Because when you go in corporate, you talk about terminology, but you can't do that when you're talking to an entrepreneur, because it's not their business to understand the section, this. You must explain it at their level and at their language. Because if you're not, you're wasting their time. Because some people want to sound smart. They're like, oh, this.
Yeah. At what point should a business get an accountant? So I think as a startup, I think most people will basically extract their account statements, their bank account statements, and say, okay, cool, this is what I paid, this is the money I got in. At what point do you actually look at getting an accountant, as you start, or as you grow? At what point do you really consider bringing an accountant on board?
I would say, as soon as you can afford it, and you say, what does that mean? If you're making 50,000 Rand a month, you could maybe get away with not. Yeah. But as soon as you're going more than 50,000 Rand a month, you should be. Because what I tell customers, what I tell clients is, you could be, let's say you're making 50,000 Rand a month. If you were working in a company before, you were paying, the tax rate is 40%. And okay, there's a bit of a sliding scale, but let's say you're making 50 grand a month, you're going to pay tax about 13 grand. But if you structure it right and you have the right accountant, that tax can go down to like 3 or lower. Not and legally and ethically, not doing anything, just if you structure it correctly, so that that accountant's fees becomes worth its while if they're giving you value. Okay. So it's almost like, do you want to pay SARS 13, or do you want to pay your accountant 6 or 7 and you save the 5, as an example? So I would say, unless you're making like 20 grand a month and you're just getting by, if you're making 50 grand a month as a business, you should you should pay an accountant, because and remember, there's also submissions that you need to make every month. Well, when you hit 80 grand a month, for example, people say, okay, when do I need to pay that? It's when your turnover is R1 million. So people in their minds like R1 million is a lot of money, but that's R1 million for the year.
Okay.
It works out to 83,000 rand a month.
Yeah.
That's not a lot.
Yeah.
And it's not profit, eh? That's top line revenue. That's a couple of deals and all of a sudden you're there.
Yeah.
And you're not going to submit your VAT. I mean, you shouldn't be worried that's going to waste your time. Even with whatever accounting and things that are available, get someone to do it for you. We'll do
Speak
it
about top line revenue and profit, just for our audience to understand. What does that mean?
So whatever a customer pays you is your top line revenue, excluding. So if you charge a customer 100,000 rand on an invoice, that 100 is your top line revenue. That's before you paying your employees, before you paying the cost of doing that. That's your top line, your sales. That's your sales number.
Okay.
Now, Wes, if you're a smaller business and you want to, automate a lot of your transactions, depending on the business that you're in, and you want to start recording it, right? So that when I sit in front of my accountant, for example, now I can provide them with, an Excel spreadsheet or, what are some of the practical tips that business owners can take from this podcast to say, oh, you know what, this is actually something I can implement in my business?
What I always recommend is get a decent cloud accounting software.
Okay.
There's lots of times, there's Xero, there's QuickBooks, there's Sage. Personally, I recommend Xero just because it's designed for entrepreneurs and I've been using it for quite a long time. It's more designed for entrepreneurs than it is actually for accountants. But because you need something that you can send out invoices from, and you don't want to make mistakes with invoices. You don't want to issue manual invoices like, what was my invoice number the last time? What's my so you rather get an accounting system as soon as possible.
Okay.
And it's not when let's call it 10, 15 years ago, you have to pay this big amount for this accounting package. Let's call it 10,000 rand. You get the CD and you put it in your computer and you hope for the best. And then a new one comes out and you must pay again. Now cloud accounting is cheap. It's like, if you're starting, it's like $400 a month.
Okay.
And if your business stops, you stop paying the fee.
Okay.
Simple.
Yeah.
Like that's the nice thing. It's affordable now. And the cloud accounting, you can automatically pull in transactions from your bank, so you don't have to be manually putting anything. You just have to set it up the first time, put in your password, and it pulls through transactions every day.
So you link it
That's
to your
fantastic.
banking profile, your banking account.
And then you just go in and you say, oh, this was for entertainment, this was for costs of sales, this was for computer expenses, whatever. And you can even set it up, or your accountant can set it up, that if it's the same amount, if it's the same things every month, it just needs to, it's like AI, they're just looking for the same description in your bank, and then it will automatically do it for you. So you just set it up once and have it.
No, talking about AI, because as accountant, some of the things that we're hearing in the industry, we're also in the finance industry, and one of the comments that were made around accounting, and this comes back to your initial comment that accountants will always have jobs, is that it was said that with AI coming into effect, accountants are probably going to be the most affected by AI. Do you see that as being true?
I can see why people would think that. And the reason I think people mix it up is people confuse bookkeeping and accounting.
Okay.
Because when you study accounting at school, you're not studying accounting, you're studying bookkeeping.
Okay.
It's bookkeeping, and that's going to be taken over by AI, because if the computer can do it, why? Where accountants can help is that they become trusted advisors to entrepreneurs, and you can based on the information. This is what and AI can also do that to a point, but there's certain things like AI is not going to be able to build a cash flow forecast for you, because the AI doesn't know because what happened last year doesn't necessarily. You can extrapolate what happened last year and say this is based on what happened last year. Could happen next year. But if you've signed a new big client with totally different prices, the AI doesn't know that. So accountants will be more effective when they need to use AI, and the ones that don't use AI are going to be left behind by the ones that do, definitely. And that's most professions. If you're not using AI, and I say that to someone who's like, I'm using ChatGPT, but I'm just like, I wish I had more time, because there's so much more that I want to do. But even the little bit that I've done has helped me a lot in the last 6 months.
So AI is not really replacing you, it's making your job more efficient, I would say. And you mentioned trusted advisors from an accounting perspective. And I wanted to ask you, when you look at startups and established firms, how does your advice differ between the two?
So I think for startups, you also, you need to understand. So established firms have in-house accountants, right?
Okay.
And this is you've got to basically, this is what you do every year. Nothing much changes as an accountant. Whereas startups, what happened in the last 6 months is going to be very different to what happened in the next 6 months. You might have a lot of cash now, and each time you have to give the person different advice. Each time, and it's also about going on the journey. Accountants are not the be all and end all. They don't know everything. They're also learning. So the more you engage with your accountant, the more they will understand the business. I'm also very inquisitive, so I like to understand what's happening, because then you can give better advice.
Yes.
And sometimes it's the off-the-cuff thing, or sometimes like, why is this person not listening to me? And it has nothing to do with the businesses. They're having problems at home, and that's why they're doing this. So it actually has. But if you just worry about the numbers, you're never gonna know that. So you have to have a relationship with your accountant, and your accountant needs to have a relationship with your entrepreneur, because that's how you're gonna make things. That's how you're gonna grow things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm listening to you, and you're right, because you find in many cases accountants are sometimes very focused on the numbers. But what you're saying is it's really about the relationships, and what I hear you saying is sometimes the entrepreneur or the business owner is not listening to you. That's really because there's other stuff happening in their life, and as entrepreneurs and as people, we always have things going on. But you, as a trusted advisor, understand that, which is great. And that's something that we really need. One of the other things that you mentioned also, Wes, is that you were saying that accountants don't always know everything, right? And sometimes you find in the industry that accountants want to also be the be all and end all, and kind of they want to do it all for their clients. And I understand that because of that relationship and maybe ring fencing the clients. But in a sense of like, let's say, for example, when we look at structuring, a client's business, and the way the structures are put in place. So, for example, a business may be owned by a trust. When you have those structuring, kind of conversations with clients, do you allow other specialists to come into the relationship as well?
So when it comes to, for example, trust, I don't know. My knowledge on trust is minimal. I always say they need to get someone, because you get accountants who are pros, and accountants, you can't know everything. The nice thing about startups is, the nice thing about I like working on startups is, you just need to know a little bit about a lot, and you will be able to help them a lot. But when you start talking about structuring with trust, then the business is at another level. The business is not worried about revenue. The business is like, now it's about how do we get that revenue, or how do we keep the profits. So it's a different form of, so the business is at a different stage. And then you definitely need to bring on specialists. So at that stage, the business can afford it. But some people are like, oh, they start the business. Now the one is like, oh, I want to put in my trust. And I'm like, you're not even making money yet. You know what I mean? Sort out the issues now before you start doing complex structuring that you're paying fee, because I can't set that up for you. So the only person you can do it is somebody who's a pro at it, and they charge fees. So it must be worth your while to pay those fees. And another thing also is like some people, they shop around for accounts. I understand some people want to pay the least amount as possible, but if you're going to pay the least amount as possible, you're going to get the least amount of value as well.
Price is only an issue in the absence of value.
Yes.
So
It's very interesting listening to you. You mentioned earlier about taxes, and I think from a banking perspective, what we've seen is that a lot of entrepreneurs overpay taxes simply because they don't know the rules. What's one of the underused tax strategies that you would recommend to businesses?
One of the underused tax strategies is small business corporations.
Okay.
So, companies, the company tax rate is 27%. If you structure it as a small business corporation, there's a sliding scale. So the first 500,000 in profit, I think the first, I don't know the 100% the numbers offhand, but like the first 70,000 is 0%, and then up to like 250 is like 7%. So there's ways of structuring it that way. What you also find is that, but there's certain requirements. So you can't have like 3 businesses. It's only specifically because the reason that it's there is the government is trying to support small businesses. So if you're someone who has 3 different businesses, you're not a small, you are a serial entrepreneur. You don't need that benefit. So they're trying to help people who are, this is the only livelihood I have. I only own shares in this company. So the government doesn't want to penalize you for that. So there's small business corporations. And I mean, some people are like, they can do it themselves. Yes, you might be able to figure it out, but you have to figure out SARS e-filing. You need to figure out how to navigate that. It's going to take you a day. Like, get someone who does it all the time. It will take them a lot quicker. Like, I know some people want to do it themselves, and that's great, but you're taking time away from your main focus.
Always, I know I'm operating on startups. It's very close to my heart because we see a lot of people starting these side businesses or side hustles, as we call it, and we're seeing a lot of that pop up now. And there's reasons for the economy stuff. So we've seen people, build a business. From a banking perspective, what we've seen a lot was people would start their businesses, but they would literally use their personal accounts to run their business. And they're quite happy with that. What is your advice to them? And at what point should you actually consider, going or opening a company or doing your registration of your business?
So again, if you're earning like anywhere between 1,000 rand and 20,000 rand a month, put it to your personal account. But just remember that, and people forget that if you're making money on the side, let's say you are a lawyer or whatever, and you're servicing, or you're helping your friends do whatever, you're earning an extra 20,000. Technically, you have to declare that on your personal income tax return, and you need to pay tax on that. And people generally forget that. And SARS won't see it until they see it,
And
so
when they do see it,
when they do see it, then it's a problem. So I would say, like, okay, do it in your personal name. If it's up to like 20, if you're earning less than 10 grand a month, as soon as it goes to like 20, think about setting up a company. That 40 is always in my mind. 40,000 is kind of in my mind there. That like definitely over 40, let's open a company. But also you have to think about it as, am I just doing this for fun for the next year? Or is it something I'm passionate about and I'm going to do for the next? Because if you're helping someone out for the next year and you don't think you're going to have a business in a year's time, then okay, just do it in your personal capacity. Declare the revenue and pay the tax in your personal name. But if it's something you enjoy and you're like, I can see myself doing this for a year or two longer, set up the company. It's not expensive to actually set up the company. The issue comes in the compliance. It's like, okay, you need financial statements. But again, you can structure it so that you pay less tax, and it can be to your benefit as long as you structure it properly.
Always, when you talk about structuring to pay less tax, I think in so many cases, when we sometimes some of us who are client facing and see clients and give advice in certain cases, see clients tend to not want to pay tax. Right, and then even within their businesses, sometimes they don't pay tax, or whether it's ethical or not. Business owners want to make or hold on to as much of the money as they can. Right, and that's not for me. I can't say exactly what it is that they're doing because I'm not actually looking at it. But what I'm saying is, I find a lot of times. I feel that if business owners actually did just do things the right way and paid the tax, they would benefit so much more because now the financials would be in order. Then when you present financials to, let's say, a bank for whatever reason, and now you want to buy that property within your business, it now becomes so much easier. Do you find that do you feel like that is like my analogy is correct? Yeah.
So there's two, like everybody should be paying tax because the roads, all those things, there's benefit. The level is the question, right? I always tell clients or potential clients is, you want to deal with SARS or any tax authority proactively. Okay. You rather submit your returns, because if you don't, if they come to you, then you are already on a red flag list. And then they can, and the problem is they do estimated assessments. So let's say you own a shop, right? And you haven't paid tax for the last year. Your busiest day, practically speaking, let's say your business day is a Saturday. They happen to come to you on a Saturday and they say, I want to see your sales on Saturday. And now they're like, okay, I'm going to assume that's your turnover for the whole week, even though that was your busiest day. They don't care. Now they make an assumption based on your most profitable day that's your tax. Now all of a sudden you've got this big tax bill based on the worst case scenario because we were trying to avoid paying tax. You do the things properly, but structure it properly again. Get someone to assist you in structuring it properly. There's lots of costs that can be put through business expenses, things that are used that will reduce your tax. But if you avoid it, as I say, I always tell people deal with SARS proactively, because if you're paying tax, SARS is not going to. They're more worried about the people that's not paying tax. They're first going to go there before they come to you. Correct. So as long as you're paying, they're like, okay. As soon as people, or especially when it comes to VAT, people are like, I want to declare or I want to get a refund. As soon as you ask for a refund, SARS is going to audit you immediately, even if it's a 1 cent refund, because they're like, that doesn't make sense. Yeah. Because in theory, businesses are there to make money. And if you're declaring a refund, you're not making money. Then I just want to touch on your other question where the people say they don't want to pay as much. They want to pay as little as possible. Tax is an after effect of a business doing well. Right? So if your business is doing well, or if you're paying a lot of tax, that's saying that your business is doing well. If your sole purpose is to pay as little tax as possible, your business is probably not going to grow because it's structured to only pay as little tax as possible. And that's fine, but then you're telling people that this is as far as I go. Okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't really want my business to go higher because then I have to actually do things properly. Because if you want your business to succeed, you're going to have to pay the tax. That's just a part of doing business.
Okay. You know what? This might be a bit of a technical question, but something I'm interested in. So when you purchase, let's say, a commercial property, for example, there's that transfer cost, or there is the VAT that you could potentially pay. So if you buy let's say a commercial property within a company that's VAT registered, and the other company is VAT registered as well, then you could potentially avoid having to pay that VAT. I mean, you were just talking about VAT quite a bit, so I was just curious on how that works.
So, and now you...
It's a bit of a technical
but so, in theory, if you VAT registered, you pay the VAT and you claim it back. So the money, you have to pay the money and you get it back in 2 months' time. So there's a cash flow impact.
Yes.
And a lot of business owners don't always realize that, because you're paying it now and you only get it back in 2 months' time. Or if it's a zero, you might not get it. Businesses that are transfer duties more, especially for like residential, when you're buying houses and things like that. And there's different levels, so depending on the value of the... Whereas if you're buying a commercial property, you're buying a business that's running. Yeah. So that's where you could potentially reduce your VAT. So you need to... And again, if you're talking about buying a commercial property, you're talking about something of 5 to 10 million rand, then you can't skimp on your advisory costs. I can understand if you're buying a house. But I mean, if you're buying a business that's going to grow, or property that's worth... there's very few commercial properties you're going to get for under 5 million. You're talking about a 10 million rand business that you're buying. Yeah. So then you need to have your ducks in a row, because now you're dealing with a big business.
Okay. Always, I actually want to ask you about your studies, especially to the youth that is probably coming through high school, or finishing high school, and thinking of going into accounting. How tough is it to become a chartered accountant? What does it take? What are the challenges? How difficult was it?
It's probably gotten tougher, but it's not easy. So you can be an accountant because you do an undergrad and then you do an honors or a postgrad, and you do 3 years of articles. And they literally tell you on your first day of varsity, they look to your right, look to your left. 1 in 3 of you is not. I mean, only one in 3 of you is going to make it through this course. They tell you that on the first day.
And that's true.
And it's true.
Okay.
It's true. And it's, again, I wouldn't say don't choose a subject based on whether it's hard or not. It's whether you're interested or not. It's the same like a business. It's like, don't choose a business, because a lot of people go with the fads. Oh, it's crypto, I want to make money. Or it's this because I want to make money. But if you're not really passionate about it, you're not really going to do well.
Or they look at the pay scale. Oh, no, chartered accountants,
so
earn
it
a lot
was
of money.
like, or people are like, oh, I want to be a doctor. Doctors make a lot of money. Yeah, you can't even deal with blood. You want to be a doctor. You know?
Yeah.
You have to be, and it's the same with being a business owner. Like, there are going to be tough times.
Yeah.
No matter where you are. And if you're passionate about it, you will push through. If you're not passionate about it, you can give up. So, if it's interesting to you, go for it. And there's nothing wrong with saying, oh, I'm going to study this now, and getting there and then like, actually, this is not, but not because it's tough. It's like, I'm not really that interested in it. If it's tough, but you're still interested in it, then you push on. But okay, you might find, you have to find something that you're passionate about. You can't be like, oh, I put my hands up. Okay, find something else to be passionate about.
Yeah. And having that passion and that purpose in your career makes you want to get up in the morning, right? And sounds like you're very passionate about what you do. Also, not only are you passionate about what you do, you also have a podcast. And maybe you can talk to us a bit about that and what is the key messages that you're trying to share with your audience?
I want to answer your question, but I think I just want to add one more thing to it.
Okay, sure.
So just on that, the nice thing about being a chartered accountant is it gives you access to any business. Because every business needs it.
Yeah.
You can get into any business. Say you're passionate about football. You can go and work for I know somebody who's an accountant of Kaiser Chiefs. Okay. So you get what I'm saying? Like if you're passionate about skateboards, you can get into, or cycling, you can go work for a cycling company, and you can actually transition from being an accountant to being in operations to being in this. I don't know if she's still the head of Woolworths South Africa. Zyda Rylands is a chartered accountant. Before she became CEO of Woolworths South Africa, she was the head of HR. There's no debits, there's no credits, there's no accounting in HR. Yeah. How do you think she got there? She was a chartered accountant that opened the doors to get to a certain level. Being a chartered accountant is a ticket to the game. It's like, but then when you get there, you have to play the game to where you want to go. Yeah. And it just gives you options.
I love that. And so maybe just tell us a bit more about your podcast and some of the other messages you share. So that's beautiful. Very well put.
But my podcast, I started it during COVID, and it's just actually a lot of people started things during COVID, and I think I'm just one of the few people who kept going. I just wanted to. There was no real platform for people, so I interview accountants and I interview also people in the finance industry, and people were just who were actually not related to finance. I asked them about their careers. I asked them because a lot of them go through struggles, and you don't even realize. Like the struggle I went through, somebody else is going through that same struggle right now. And if I explain, we all make mistakes. I had this issue. Somebody says, I'm going through this now. He got through it or she got through it. I can also do it. And I mean, it's opened so many doors for me. Like the job that I'm in right now, I got because I interviewed someone, totally different related. And then it came up and they asked me, this company needs a CFO. Would you be interested? But I would never have been able to speak to that person and I didn't interview him for that purpose. It was like 6 months later. It just opens doors for you that you don't even realize. And also, like, accountants, like I'm a bit of a nerd, so sometimes like I like my numbers, but it brings out a different part of your personality. Yeah. And in business, networking is very important. I've got a list of people that I can speak to that other people will never be able to speak to, just because I had a chat with them, and just because I had an interview with them, and I gave them exposure. Some people Google their name, and then that my interview is the first thing that comes up because they don't have anything else online. All of a sudden, people know who I am. But it's also like it gives people you can learn from other people's experiences, and I think that helps people. So that's the most important.
Always, it's been a very interesting chat. We've run out of time already. I can tell you now, we haven't gotten through half the questions we wanted to ask you. So I'm actually telling you, we're going to probably invite you back for a part 2 of the podcast. But Jazakallah, shukran so much for joining us. 2 questions before I let you go. Your personal playbook. What's one financial habit you wish every entrepreneur adopted from day one?
I would say when an invoice comes in, put 10% in the savings account. Put it because entrepreneurs look at the bank account and say, this is the amount of money in my bank account. Okay, I can spend this. Yes. But if it's in a savings account, at least they don't look at it every day, and at least there's an emergency fund if things go wrong. But if it's in the main account, it's there and they want to spend it because...
People know how valuable that advice is, I'm telling you. Where can our audience connect with you or access your resources?
I'm most active on LinkedIn, but also on YouTube, also on Spotify, also on Apple Podcasts. So you can listen to me in whichever medium suits you best.
Jazakallah. Shukran so much for your time. It was pleasant having you on the podcast. And there you have it. Stay tuned for next week when we have another important guest on our podcast. Shukran for watching our podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends and family. Till next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.